every dollar has a role the same way every 15 minutes of your day has a role on your calendar. This philosophy is crucial for entrepreneurs because we're idea machines. We're constantly thinking of new products to add to our line, new bonuses to offer, new courses we want to invest in. And all the while, most of my clients first come to me describing their business as an entrepreneur roller coaster. So we're in a cycle of spending based on how we're feeling. When we feel high, YOLO, it's payday, it's time to spend. And when they're feeling low, oh my God, I'm broke, help, let me spend on this new thing to distract or save me from this feeling. Welcome to Sincerely Future You, a podcast that helps ambitious women like you make decisions today with the future you in mind. Hi, Hapsters. Spring is sprung. Oh my goodness, where I am in New York, it is just the most beautiful time of the year. I am a homeowner now, like officially settled into it, which means that spring actually means that my house situation changes. We are starting to, seed our lawn. My husband is very much trying to figure out how to do all of this stuff ourselves first before we hire people. That's kind of the way we roll. It's how I roll in business as well. I'm always trying to figure out, okay, I want to learn the ins and outs of this, and then I'm going to hire it out, even if it's not my highest functioning activity or if it's my biggest strength, because then when I hire someone, I really understand if they're doing their job properly, or I understand what needs to get done. I understand maybe the pace at which I can do something. So I know if I am hiring someone that they are the expert, they should be able to do it faster than me, better than me, all of those things. And so with spring, we're trying to figure that out with our landscaping. I'm shocking myself at how much I'm enjoying the outdoors of my house. I really enjoy the fruits of a garden, but am not a green thumb, or I don't currently think of myself as someone who is. So I'm trying, you guys. Those of you who are listeners to the show and you are big time green thumbs, please send me all of your tips and tricks because I'm here for it, and I want to expand my identity to be one of y'all. Okay, so let's share a review of the week. The review of the week came from Diana. Diana said, I loved the episode Sold Out. Such a good reminder that the goal isn't always to sell out, but still inspiring me to want to do it. I've never actually said out loud that I'm striving to be sold out. That was such a fun review for me because I think that is the point. I tell the Hapsters all of the time that you're not going to accidentally stumble upon your goals. You really are that much more likely to reach something, to expand into the next level of your business when you start saying out loud over and over and over again that this is what I'm doing. You're telling your brain, it's okay, we're going towards this. You're starting to bridge the gap between who you are right now and who you want to be. And if sold out is who you want to be, start saying it out loud right now. But again, reminder, if you haven't gone and listened to that episode, go do so now. It's not just about always selling out. There's different seasons of growth, but maybe it's yours right now. Go and listen to that episode after this one. Okay, this one is going to be one of my most historical episodes. I'm going to predict that this is an episode that listeners are going to think of when they think of my podcast, that new listeners are going to find me from this episode. Why? Because I'm going to be talking to you about You Need a Budget. I'm going to be talking about why I use You Need a Budget, which is a very popular personal budgeting tool for my business. I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the other personal budgeting apps that I've used, as well as the business budgeting tools that I've used, so that you can kind of learn through me and maybe learn through some of my mistakes and see if YNAB is for you. YNAB is what we're going to call You Need a Budget. It's an acronym, and it has just been such a game changer for my business, so much so that I actually train all of my clients on this in happening sessions in my coaching container. So the first question I want to ask you guys is, are you a saver or a spender? I know I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but one of the biggest breakthroughs in my financial mindset was realizing that you don't actually have to choose between one or the other. For most of my life, though, I thought that you did. So I chose spender. I thought that spenders were fun and savers were responsible. And for most of my life, and maybe even still now, if I'm being truthful, if I had to choose between being fun or being responsible, I'd choose fun. But thankfully, that isn't the way things work. You can be both. In fact, you can be a master at more than just spending and saving. Hapsters come and they learn how to be masterful in spending, saving, earning, investing, having, and giving. All 6 areas of engaging with money. And you don't even have to earn lots of money to do all of that, which I also think is a common misconception. You just need a tool that helps you see your money and rewards your brain for doing all 6. So a little backstory. When my ex-husband and I separated back in end of 2018, 2019, we decided together that we better both get our money straight. So we downloaded You Need a Budget, or YNAB, and we started out as a personal budgeting journey, but it quickly turned into an addiction for me, definitely. It was amazing. I had tried and fallen off other budgeting apps. Specifically for me, I used Mint and I used everydollar.com. I was a big listener to Dave Ramsey's podcast and a big Dave Ramsey fan in general, because I was someone who was so beginner, and he really does speak to those beginners in financing. But he also talked to a lot of people who had accumulated debt, and I didn't have debt. I just had really no money. So he was speaking to some of my problems, but I really just wanted to figure out how to break that paycheck to paycheck cycle. And Mint and everydollar.com, it didn't seem to click for me until YNAB. I started to see my credit card as it was intended after using YNAB, as a tool to build credit rather than the villain of my money woes, which is kind of how EveryDollar sees credit cards, as something that you should not be using as if you are kind of starting out in your money journey. So conveniently, I was also looking for an easier way to track my write-offs for tax season, something that all entrepreneurs who don't track their spending really dread this season. And actually, we're just coming off of it, so you might still have some PTSD, and this might be the perfect time to listen to this episode. Even the other entrepreneurs I knew who were tracking their spending fell into 2 categories that just weren't for me. One was the QuickBooks crew. I had actually planned to join them, but I figured I'd give it a go in the platform that I was already paying for. But the other one were people who were using an Excel spreadsheet, and they just were, that was what I had tried for a little bit, and it was working for me to be able to see my tax write-offs, but it didn't help me predict what I needed to have in terms of inflows in order to cover all of these budgets. It just kind of told me the past of what had happened. And as you guys know, we're listening to the podcast Sincerely Future You. A past-focused accounting system, a past-focused budgeting system really was not what I was looking for. I was looking for something that was going to help me start to become that future self. And so I was like, all right, do I do QuickBooks, which seemed like a pricey investment for me? And we'll talk about that in a little bit, as a very beginner small business owner, or do I keep using this Excel spreadsheet? I don't know. So I was already paying for You Need a Budget. They have a really, I think, generous free trial of 34 days. So it gives you a full month and some change to go through your budget and see if it's something that works for you. However, my one critique of You Need a Budget is that the upfront setup is a little bit overwhelming and laborious. So I personally help my clients get set up so that they can feel like they have someone that's going to hold their hand while they're in the phase of being confused, because there are just certain things about budgeting that takes a full month of being in order for it to click for you to get it. So YNAB has 4 rules that they use to help their clients break that paycheck to paycheck cycle and ultimately have a really, really healthy, thriving budget. And I'm going to go through their 4 rules and we're going to apply it to entrepreneurs so that you can see how and why I think that YNAB is the no-brainer best method for you to use to think about your money holistically, not just your business budget and then also your personal budget, but all of the money that you have. And this doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that you commingle accounts or that you have all of your money in one bank account. Definitely not. It just means that you can use the same tool, the same type of thinking in order to think about your business money and your personal money. Okay, so here are the rules. Rule number 1 YNAB has is every dollar has a role. So YNAB thinks about money in the same way that I teach my masterful CEOs to think about time. Every dollar has a role the same way every 15 minutes of your day has a role on your calendar. This philosophy is crucial for entrepreneurs because we're idea machines. We're constantly thinking of new products to add to our line, new bonuses to offer, new courses we want to invest in. And all the while, most of my clients first come to me describing their business as an entrepreneur roller coaster. So we're in a cycle of spending based on how we're feeling. When we feel high, YOLO, it's payday, it's time to spend. And when they're feeling low, oh my God, I'm broke, help, let me spend on this new thing to distract or save me from this feeling. YNAB's process helped me break that emotional cycle and has helped probably 50 of my clients masterfully handle having a 20K month followed by a 3 5K months, for example, without overspending or stressing out. Entrepreneurs are sold the idea that inconsistent months means that they can't really plan. The only way that you can start to budget is to just make more money. They can never know if they'll be able to afford something 6 months from now. They can't know what to pay their employees. They try and solve everything with making more money. But the truth is, you can't out-earn an overspending habit. Making more money is the natural solution for all people's brains, but it's particularly tempting for entrepreneurs because technically, we could always just make more money, right? And we should, but not from scarcity. Because if we don't break this cycle of trying to use making more money as the solution for our lack of understanding of how to budget out our money, it follows us into every level of business. I had a mentor making $10 million a year that told me she still had fear of needing to make more money. And in my opinion, if she used You Need a Budget for her business, and I know that she has the most advanced accounting software as well as a whole CFO and accounting team, if she was using You Need a Budget for her brain to understand, which is why I highly recommend that you start using this at the earlier stages of your business, although I have clients that I introduce it to in the multiple 6-figure range, this would be so avoidable because then once you get to that multiple 6-figure range, you don't have to be as into the very specific details about every single dollar that you're spending, but you're still allocating a certain percentage of your money and you can pass along your philosophies to your team that's going to handle your money. Every dollar having a role also allows you to make decisions using the math of what you actually have. For example, you're going to start to order inventory based on how much you have budgeted for inventory that month, instead of how much you have in your business checking account. So most people are asking themselves the low quality question of, can I afford this? Black or white, right? Yes or no. And they're looking at their business checking balance to see, can I afford this or not? If the thing they want to spend on is $5K and they have $7K in their account, they're like, okay, let's do it. They're not understanding how much of that $7K in my business checking is already completely assigned to other expenses that are upcoming, right? And the same thing with our credit card account. They're looking at those two balances, the number of money that they owe on their credit card statement that's upcoming, or their business checking account. YNAB helps you break that cycle of even looking at it. I'm telling you, I almost never look at the total in my business checking or the total of what I owe of my balance of my credit card, because it doesn't mean as much as, hey, am I assigning money towards the things that I actually want to spend on? That is the type of financial freedom that you guys actually are looking for when you're talking about it. Not, I just want to have $100,000 in my business checking account. Well, I can assure you, if you continue to try and solve for it by over earning and you get to that place where you have 100K, but you have not started to masterfully understand your budget, you will probably still fear and possibly actually overspend on that 100K. Okay. So a monthly budget is much harder to create when you aren't receiving a salary yet. And this rule of every dollar has a role is the best rule for entrepreneurs, because while other budgets, they have you create your monthly budget. So they're having you budget out, how much do you generally want to spend this month, when YNAB focuses on how much you actually have right now, and they budget out as far as that goes. And they talk about how many days can your money cover you in terms of expenses. It might not be 30 days. It might be over 30 days. But this is what will help an entrepreneur so that you can understand, like, my monthly budget is not a relevant question for an entrepreneur. It's harder to create when you don't have a consistent, predictable salary yet. Okay. Rule number 2 for YNAB is embrace your true expenses. So what does this mean? Most people think of expenses in 2 buckets: your recurring expenses and your emergency fund or incidentals. This system only works though if your income consistently exceeds your expenses, which is the goal. In other words, you're a saver. But even my clients who identify as savers when we first start working together had 2 problems that YNAB solves for. Number 1, they dreaded pulling from their emergency fund because they didn't have a clear definition of what it should be used for. So every time they did spend from it, they felt scared and guilty. And number 2, they felt deprived. Their identity as a saver felt black and white, and they rarely allowed themselves to make big purchases, even if those big purchases made sense for their business. Okay, YNAB teaches you how to break down your expenses further. So not just the expenses that we know that are coming in monthly. They will break it down to parent categories. When I train my clients, I train them to use parent categories of fixed expenses, things like rent, phone bill, internet, that are the same dollars on the same day monthly, and then variable expenses, things like payroll or inventory or staff meals. And then we further break down their traditional emergency fund, which I like to call preparing for the unexpected, because I do not believe in preparing for emergencies. That word really heightens our emotions, and it also feels like there's never a good time to use it. Even when I watch my clients have a quote unquote emergency, they always feel really scared. So in long-term savings, we break down that category of emergency fund, and this might look like having reserves for refunds or unexpected staff expenses or taxes or storefront maintenance. Okay. Once you have a category present, you can begin to treat these unpredictable future expenses as bills. So you can automatically assign something like $50 a month to a category as if they were true expenses. That way, if you have 3 customers ask for refunds in the same month or a price hike from a supplier, you don't have to choose between handling the problem and paying yourself. You have a buffer that was always meant to handle this. You feel no guilt for pulling from savings, quote unquote. After all, this isn't your savings. These are your true variable expenses of your business. This rule is what makes saving actually feel fun because YNAB's app is designed to give you a dopamine hits when you save, or as they call it, assign money, in the same way that you'd previously only been able to experience it via spending. Magic. Okay. This was a game changer to me that I started to describing as an addiction because every time money came in, it felt fun immediately. I went right into the YNAB app and I didn't even care when it hit my bank account because sometimes it takes maybe 24 hours to hit your YNAB account. Once it was there, I got to actually assign it out and see what my money was doing for me. So even before it was spent, even if what I was assigning for was something far into the future, I got that hit of dopamine that made me feel both responsible, but it still felt fun. Amazing. YNAB rule number 3, roll with the punches. Okay. CEOs are humans too. Occasionally, you're going to overspend. When this happened before YNAB, my client's tendency was to just quit looking at their numbers. They'd start operating from shame and they'd do what I call closing their eyes and crossing their fingers by abandoning all tracking and falling back on the band-aid of making more money. Roll with the punches means that we solve for overspending in one category simply by moving money from another category to cover it. Just like with weight loss, diets don't work because they create a culture of having to follow something perfectly. You don't have to be perfect to see results with YNAB. I'm certainly still not perfect. You just need to keep showing up, and this rule makes it really easy to do so. That said, YNAB builds an important skill for a masterful CEO, which is self-trust in spending. I always tell the Hapsters that spending should feel great before, during, and after you spend. So YNAB gives you that opportunity to connect with your spending in all 3 phases. When you assign money to the category, conscious decision before you spend, when you swipe your card, the fun during, and when you rectify the transaction after it hits your account. Eventually, you learn what spending is aligned with your business goals and values and what spending decisions were actually dopamine driven. They were driven by your desire to just avoid feeling a negative emotion. And then afterwards, after you've spent the money, it didn't feel that good. You had to see it in your account and you're like, oh, don't really want to do that anymore. Or I don't want to do that again next time. And you have to click the money and move something from another account. To me, this is a healthy opportunity to face a negative emotion and to process it, to face something like constraint and or disappointment. And you get to see, okay, this is something that felt good before, during, or after. Before that, you might have spent and then really seriously avoided it and not understood why you weren't feeling good, which would create a whole new cycle of overspending. So rule number 3 of rolling with the punches, it helps make it not that big of a deal, but not so little of a deal that you just ignore it altogether. It helps you have a really quick solution where you'll pull money from one category into another category to cover the overspending, and then you just move on. Okay, YNAB rule number 4, age your money. All of YNAB's rules help you to age your money, meaning you're increasing the amount of days that your money will last you. So when you start out, you might be in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, which means if you have a habit of being paid every 2 weeks, then you need to pay yourself that 2 weeks in order to cover the spending that's coming up in those next 2 weeks. Breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle looks like having 30-day age of your money or plus 30 days age of your money, which means that you are actually using the money that's coming in to pay for future expenses instead of present or past expenses. Okay? So when you build the habit of being more purposeful with every dollar that you spend and consistently spend less than you earn, you will grow the net worth of your company. You'll finally have the financial freedom you probably craved when you first decided to become a business owner. Eventually, you'll be paying for your Q2 expenses with those Q1 earnings. Like I said, when bills or unexpected expenses happen, you're prepared. You simply pay them. This allows you to step into your most important role as a CEO, the future planner. Now that you're not so hyper-focused on the present, you can think about the future of your company. You can build a retreat into your offer. You can plan to give generous holiday bonuses for your staff without bankrupting your business. You can have the bandwidth to fund and launch your new offer. Invest in a marketing team. You can actually try out a new offer that you really want to test and believe in, but you need time to allow for people to not quite get it yet and for there to be some no's. In order to really be brave in your business, breaking this paycheck to paycheck cycle, aging your money, even if you're not in it, aging it from, 30 days to 60 days is such an incredible gift that you can give to your future self, because the options of what you can do with the value inside your brain are limitless. The only thing that I see QuickBooks doing right now is quickly pricing out small business. I couldn't recommend YNAB more, not just for your business, but your personal life too. Because just like I teach you in scheduling, your life and business do interact. You don't just schedule your work, you schedule your whole life. In happening sessions, I teach my clients how to pay themselves as a fixed expense rather than taking owner draws, as we call them, whenever they want to or need to. I wanted a solution for myself that I would actually do. And like I said, YNAB is fun. I'd never heard of anyone loving QuickBooks, although I'm sure there are people listening out there, probably all accountants, who would fight me on this. And just understand, of course, this is my experience and my opinion. But just to give you some facts here, right now, currently, the price for You Need a Budget is $99 a year. I do believe it's going up about $20. Don't quote me on that, but you can do multiple budgets, so business and personal. So while you're developing this skill of understanding how to use it, you can use it with your spouse. You can teach this to your kids. If you have adult kids, you can teach this to your friends. I've taught this to my brother and my sister-in-law, even starting to educate my dad, who taught me so much of what I know about finance in YNAB. I'm trying to help him in retirement think about money in a new way, as he has always had the privilege of being able to solve for any financial problem by over-earning. He was in sales, and now that he's retired, he wants to feel that calm when looking at his budget, and it requires a little bit more understanding collectively, him and my mom, right? So learning this is not just something that you can apply to your business, but also to your personal life, which is amazing. And then QuickBooks, the pricing for a small business is $30 a month or $360 a year. And that's for the basic plan of QuickBooks for small businesses only. I just don't think that necessarily is going to be giving you more of what you need. There are some features of QuickBooks that I do think make more sense for product-based businesses. However, I have had a lot of my clients who use QuickBooks for their businesses still start to do YNAB for their personal, and they have, once learning it for their personal, decided to shift over and found a way to do it themselves. Listen, if this sounds like a magical fairyland that's too good to be true, I get it. I really couldn't imagine ever being so calm and in control with money, especially starting out my budget as a single mompreneur at 31 years old with next to nothing in my bank account and a low and inconsistent income coming in. If I can do it, so can you. Join us the next round of happening sessions. We enroll June 5th, so it's coming up. Make sure that you are on the wait list and be the first to apply to the September class. I can't wait for you to experience true financial mastery, both business and personal. If you're already a YNAB lover, you're my people. Got more YNAB tips for entrepreneurs? Please leave a review and share this episode. Have questions about working together on this or to see if this is a good fit for you and your business? Shoot me an email at jessica@whatshappening.com. That's WHATSHAPPYNING.com. Jessica@whatshappening.com. Or you can DM me on Instagram. My handle is at Jess McKinley Wayno. That's spelled Jess McKinley, Wayno Uyeno. Have an amazing day. Here's to more financial freedom. Hey Hapsters, if you want to learn more about today's topic, head over to whatshappening.com/podcast. That's What's Happening, WHATSHAPPYNING.com/podcast. If you're a business owner and you're resonating with what we talk about here, what are you even doing? Come hang out with me over where the party's at on Instagram at What's Happening WJess. Again, that's happy, HAPPYNING, and book a discovery call to see if coaching is your next best step.